Hi folks, Dr. P here, and I'm going to give you the most important advice about contracts I can give you, I think. And that's simple, but it's important, and I'll tell a little story as well. The advice is that you really need to read and understand the contract. If you don't understand it, don't sign it. I'm not telling you to use a lawyer because many lawyers will not be able to help you. You need a game lawyer, and of course, lawyers are expensive. Quite apart from it's hard to find a game lawyer. And you're not likely to make very much money with your game design. So are you going to spend a lot of that on a lawyer? But you need to read it. You need to understand it. If you don't understand it, then why would you sign it? Don't take explanations outside the contract, whether they're oral explanations or written explanations. It needs to be in the contract. If it's not in the contract, most of the time it doesn't count. Now, what brought this to mind? Well, my wife and I moved to Florida from North Carolina recently. We're retired. We had 2 houses to sell in North Carolina. And getting them ready to sell and so on was such a hassle that we finally sold one of them to a flipper. What a flipper does is buy a house that needs a lot of work. They do the work, and then they sell it at a much higher price and make a profit. And they sold the house in the end for about half again what we sold it to them for. But we were happy because we escaped a whole lot of difficulties. The house had a lot of work to do. We were tired of this because we'd been working on it so long, so we sold it. The person we sold it to was both a lawyer and a real estate agent. She had a JD. I don't know if she was actually licensed to practice, but she had the JD. And the first contract she sent to us was horrendous. It was absolutely ridiculous. It left out so many things. It was so vague. It was only 2 pages that we told her we would never sign something like this, and anybody who signs something like this is an idiot. And she laughed and said, well, maybe so. And yet a lot of people who've got fed up and just want to get rid of their house, they sign this lousy, rotten contract simply because they want to get it done. You can't do that anytime, but certainly not in game design, because there are people who will take advantage of you. Not too many, but they're there. So you can't be signing a horrendous contract. I received another contract from another company, and it was horrendous. This is a game contract. It was horrendous. Their lawyers had written it. The lawyers didn't understand games, I guess. And in reading it, I thought that the next thing they were going to say is that I had to give them my firstborn child. It was that extreme. And I met the owner of the company at a convention. I said, this is terrible. And he said, well, this is what our lawyers said we had to do. And he suggested that I write what I thought was wrong with it and send it to him. Well, I never got around to that because the game had been going on for so long. They'd had it for years. And the contract was so bad, I just didn't see how it could be fixed. And the next year at the convention, they weren't there. Well, then I wrote to them and said, you weren't there. Are you still in business? This is a small company. Didn't get a reply. So I took that game that was at that point 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old, sent it to another publisher. They were very enthusiastic about it, and within a year, it was manufactured and published. So that horrendous contract actually cost the first company a sale, in effect. But the point here is there are horrendous contracts out there, and there are horrendous contracts in games. You've got to read it. If you can't understand it, it needs to be fixed one way or another. And it has to be in writing. It has to be part of the contract. Thanks for listening.